Okay. So I am honored to be talking with all you guys today. It's the first time I've ever done a huge group interview of this magnitude. It's awesome, especially with a film that, as a huge anime and manga fanatic, I totally appealed to me and I really enjoyed it. So, first of all, thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk about this.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having.
So, my first question is for Eric. How did this idea come about for the movie?
Yeah, well, I really wanted to make something that only I could make, something that was really unique and one of a kind. My thinking being, if I told a story, like as Duplass brothers said, if I did a story that I was uniquely qualified to tell, then it would be really good and it would actually matter to people. And so the honest answer is that I just based on my own childhood. It's very loosely based off of me and my best friend, and then lots of Japanese friends that I've made in my adult life living in Japan. It combines things that I believe very deeply with things that I care about very deeply. And what it really comes down to is I wanted to make a film that would genuinely touch people. And I thought the only way that the only way that I can earn the audience's trust is if I trust them with things that I actually believe and care about. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to make it as authentic as possible and as real as possible. And this is the end result of that. This is the end result of trying to be as true to myself as possible, and then bringing on board people who were more talented than me who would elevate that.
That's awesome. I gotta say, you remind me of me because I had Japanese friends growing up, so I know that whole world, and it's because of them. I knew about Dragon Ball Z before the mainstream even got to know that. I knew that since like the early '90s because I've been watching that like half my life. So I totally relate to that. And like two of my best friends were Japanese, so I absolutely relate to that.
Well, that means the world to me. I think there are a lot of us who grew up like that, and no one had made a film about that group of people before. And I thought, well, I think I'm in a position to make that film and make it really well and in a way that will really touch people. So thanks so much.
That's awesome. So my next question is for Quinn, Ronak, and Christina. This is for each of you. What led you to play your roles? And because you all did a great job. I mean, I love that it was all like eclectic and diverse. And so how did this come about? And also, are you guys anime and manga fanatics yourselves?
I first watched anime when I was a much younger version of myself, my younger years. So when I was growing up, my dad, when he was growing up, had watched a whole bunch of Transformers and Macross, which was then given to North America under the name Robotech. So I ended up watching Transformers, Robotech, a little bit of Pokemon, the series, during my childhood. So I ended up having a bit of a base in that. Recently, I've watched One Punch Man, which is kind of an interesting series, but as far as further anime, Eric has, before we ended up getting on set and actually performing the script, he had given us a nice long list of anime and other materials to watch. One of those is Evangelion.
Oh, I love that show.
I have yet to get back to it, but I watched episode or 2 of that, and I was very happy that Robotech and Evangelion, the animation styles are very similar. So I'm probably going to give that a watch as my next anime. But the other part of the question was,
what led you to play Sean in this movie? Like, how did that come about? Like, what inspired you to take on that role?
What inspired me is, it was actually knowing what the script was kind of about, the genre and all that, and also the fact that it took place in the 90s. It just all fit together into a movie that I just really like to be a part of. As far as and all that was because Eric ended up casting us based off of our actual personalities, so there wasn't much acting involved.
Quinn and I are the same person.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
100% are.
I just need the little mustache and goatee.
To answer the first part of your question, so the one thing that drew me to the role was the fact that it was an Indian American character that had nothing to do with his ethnicity per se. So I really appreciate that, where I could just be myself and not have to have some of these other, cultural.
Sorry,
You're
guys.
back.
Okay, sorry about that.
All right, you're back.
All right, we're good. All right, so yeah, I think Ronak was talking. Yeah, so yeah, Ronak. Well,
I'll start my answer again. So I one thing that drew me to the role was the fact that it was an Indian American character that had nothing to do with my ethnicity per se. I like that I could just be myself, and I had nothing else to do with any of the cultural stigmas. And then in terms of manga and anime, I also watched a lot of Dragon Ball Z growing up. Although for me it was in the mid 2000s. So for me that was like the starting point, and then Pokemon, Digimon. And then more recently, I also watched Evangelion, so it really gave me an inlet into that whole entire world. And then, of course, Avatar: The Last Airbender is like, I love that. It's my favorite.
nice. What about you, Christina?
For me, what drew me to the role was that, well, also, especially after talking to Eric, when we first met about this project, I could tell he genuinely understands Japanese culture, and he has this mission to represent it authentically. And for me, growing up in Japan as a Japanese girl, there aren't many movies that I feel authentically represents Japan.
Mhm.
And so for me to be able to be a part of a film that does that, like I was like, yes. But yeah, it was definitely kind of a challenging role, because I grew up always speaking English as my first language. And so to now have to play like a super native foreign Japanese exchange student, that was crazy. That drew me to the role for sure, because I was like, okay, let's try this. These are the people I grew up around. And I would also teach English to Japanese kids, because my mom was an English teacher. So I helped doing that.
Mhm.
And so for this movie to be something that can speak to, Japanese kids as well as like American kids, it was really cool to be a part of that.
That's great. And I gotta say, you really pulled off the accent quite well. I could say that because, like I said, I had Japanese friends, and they had that heavy accent. You pulled it off like perfectly, hands down.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
Appreciate that.
I noticed that Billy Zane was in the film, and also one of my favorite Japanese action stars, Yumiko Shaku from Princess Blade, that came out like 20 years ago. What was it like working with those guys?
Well, okay, so very specific, very different answers for both. So, I mean, Billy is he is an idea machine. He's one of those people. He got the script, he learned it in an instant, and then it was one of those things where it was kind of like, okay, I just need to sort of like step back, let all of the ideas burble forth, and just kind of like see the cool thing that emerges. There's a reason why Billy Zane is Billy Zane. He's just a cool, unique guy who, like, you set him up with the right recipe, and he'll prepare a dish that is exactly what you asked for, but like the flavor, but it's not the flavor you imagined. And it's just, it was really special. It was kind of, it was just sort of like prime the car and then watch it race down the racetrack.
That's awesome.
So I'm delighted that you're a fan of Yumiko. She, if she has flaws, I don't know what they are, because she's beautiful and just as beautiful on the inside. So I of course, the Princess Blade, but Godzilla, ex-Mecha Godzilla.
Mhm.
I knew her from those, and that, many other things in Japan, because when I went to Japan for the first time in 2007, and so she's just all over the place. I mean, she just is she is a consummate professional, and just a really sincere, smart person. And I don't know, it's just like, it was really neat because like we would go from just hanging out and talking to, then we go and she is this, she's this terrifying character on screen. And I think she's just a real, I don't know, like she's very talented, but very, very hardworking. And I want all the best for her.
Yeah, definitely. So my next question is for Quinn and Ronak. Since you guys are the two guys who become the mecha and the kaiju, were those you guys, were those you two in the suits, or were those like stunt actors and they just did the voiceovers? Because
they ended up being stunt actors and we did the voiceovers, but hopefully in the future, perhaps it will actually be us in the suits. As far as transformation goes, all the while through the transformation, whenever you see my face, then yes, it's me. And same goes for Ronak.
Yeah, I wish I was in the suits just as much as everybody. I wanted to do it so badly, but alas, we had great stunt guys, and good for them because we probably needed them more than Quinn and I.
Yeah, but I think you guys would have done a good job in the suits when that opportunity comes. I think.
Well, I will piggyback off of, I look forward to seeing what happens when we can get Quinn and Ronak into suits. I will say so. Chris and Hunter, who were in the suits, they are remarkable. And Christina got to work with them more directly, so she can vouch for that. But besides just being really cool, nice guys, one of the things I talked about early with them is, these are cool outfits you're in, but don't play it cool. Play it like, you are Sean and Vic suddenly in this weird big body. It's like you just hit puberty and like things aren't in the same place that you remember them being. And so the fact that they were able to channel that along with just the practical reality of these big awkward suits, one of which is, the mecha suit is very, very thin and not warm at all in the middle of the freezing Oklahoma winter. And the kaiju suit, which is, gigantic and heavy. And I remember we would take the head off and see, I'm like, not exaggerating, like you would see steam rising up because of how heated up Hunter had become. I mean, it just, I don't know how a human being, I mean, it's a pro athletic level of physical prowess. So, I mean, Christina, I think you got a different window into it.
Yeah, I mean, well, Hunter, who was in the kaiju suit, was definitely my source of heat that whole time shooting in the prairie. And I could not believe what he was doing with that. It's so heavy and so hot. And it was, I mean, they're just such troopers. And Chris, on the other hand, is like freezing, and me as well. But it was so cool to work with them because just the action scene where they're just all fighting around me, I was just looking around genuinely, like I felt like I was in this fight, and it was crazy to see it all happen around me, and they're just such professionals. So yeah, that was a very special scene.
Yeah, and one of the things that blew me away was that the action scenes combined not just live action, but the animation. And I was like, that was something I never would have imagined seeing, but that was an amazing thing to do, just to mesh the two worlds together.
Well, thank you. It took a lot of planning, and then a lot of planning, and then just a lot of fun. I mean, it like the thing about animation is so many things that go by in a blink of an eye are the result of a conversation or a decision-making process. I mean, so if you're not at the mercy of the weather, well, what is the weather? What do the clouds look like? Where is the camera angled? Like, how exactly does this character move? And so as a director, that's just kind of catnip, because it's like, not only do you have to decide everything, but you get to decide everything. And, working with the animation team, it's like, there are so many opportunities to elevate really small moments just beyond what you originally thought they could be, and then just bigger and bigger and bigger. There's a scene where two characters are fighting in the air, and in one shot, the camera tilts and you can see the horizon line going and then kind of like go out of focus and curve almost like, they're curving up outside of Earth. And that like, that wasn't even in the storyboards. That was just something that emerged as we were like actually animating the shot and developing. It's like, oh, what if we did that? And, a lot of people probably wouldn't notice that until like their 7th or 8th viewing of the film. But I just like all of that stuff adds up. And
Yeah, definitely.
it was a joy to craft that.
That's awesome. I gotta say that this is a great movie. I think any anime and manga fan will definitely want to see this movie, hands down. And I think they should see this movie. Not just want to see it, they should see this movie. I'm telling people, any manga anime fan, they have to see this movie. And so my last question for each of you is, now that this is going to be premiere at Fantastic Fest, is there anything new that you guys can talk about that's coming up for you guys?
I'm currently not able to attend Fantastic Fest because I'm currently in the middle of filming season 2 of a series called Firefly Lane. It's on Netflix. So that's what's coming up for me. Of course, I had to conflict with the attendance of Fantastic Fest, but what can you do?
You're there in spirit.
Yeah,
There you go.
Virtually, technically, right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Right now, I just got EK Boys coming up, so just gonna enjoy Austin and everything EK Boys.
Nice.
For me, I have a limited series Netflix show called From Scratch coming out next year. So stay tuned for that, and yeah, some other projects as well.
Christina is also a singer under the name Ayako, and Ayako wrote and sings beautifully the end credit song for EK Boys. So
Aha! Okay, I knew that song was awesome. I love that song. I'm like,
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to release that.
yeah.
it's got to come out. It's got to be a single.
And
Mhm.
Definitely.
It will be a single.
I told you, Christina. So as for me, I am working as hard as I can to get EK Boys out there in the world for as many people as possible to see it. Suffice to say that one film is not enough. I'm working very, very hard on the next film I want to make. It is very different from EK Boys, but equally fantastical. Just suffice to say that all the things I've been saying about dinosaurs and monsters and sincerity, all of that stuff, it's funneled into the new film in a new, different, but I think equally ambitious and equally compelling way. So stay tuned, because I'm very, very excited.
That's awesome. So EK Boys is premiering at the Fantastic Fest, and I swear this better get some mainstream releasing. And I am demanding that any manga and anime fan, if they're saying what film can you recommend, I am saying EK Boys hands down. That's it. And I'm hoping everyone does get to see this film when it hits Fantastic Fest. And Eric, Quinn, Ronak, and Christina, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Albert.
All right, you guys take care and stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Too.
You too.
Have a good one.
All right.
Have a good one.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.